Did you know that in medieval England, most people never bathed, and many believed that baths were the work of the devil? Yes, the same people who built majestic cathedrals and impregnable castles lived among rats, superstition, and a constant fear of death. Today, I'll take you on a journey into the heart of medieval England, a land of cruel kings, desperate peasants, deadly diseases, and beliefs so absurd they sound like something out of a horror novel. But beware, nothing in this story is as simple as it seems. Medieval England, from the 5th to the 15th century, was not the green, romantic land we imagine from movies. It was brutal, filthy, and unforgiving. Most people lived in the countryside, in wooden huts covered with dried manure. There were no bathrooms, no cutlery. People ate with their hands, slept beside their animals, and died young. If you made it to 40, you were old. Power belonged to the nobility, a tiny elite who owned nearly all the land. Peasants were serfs. They couldn't leave their villages, marry, or even hunt in their lord's forests without permission. If they did, they could be hanged or mutilated in public. It was a world ruled by fear, where punishment was a spectacle. Executions were held in town squares to educate the people. Parents brought their children to watch, as if it were a fair. Yet even in that darkness there was beauty. The sound of troubadours singing, the stained glass light filtering through church windows, and the illuminated manuscripts painstakingly written by monks who might spend their whole lives copying a single Bible. England was a land of contradictions, devotion and barbarity, faith and violence, love and plague. At the center of power stood the king, believed to be chosen by God. But the English throne was anything but stable. Noble families slaughtered each other for control. One brutal example was the War of the Roses in the 15th century, a civil war between two branches of the same royal family, the Lancasters and the Yorks. For 30 bloody years, England tore itself apart, brother against brother, cousin against cousin. In the end, a new dynasty emerged, the Tudors, beginning with Henry VII, grandfather of the infamous Henry VIII. But before the Tudors came another king who changed everything, William the Conqueror. In 1066, he invaded England from Normandy and transformed the country completely. Imagine an entire nation under foreign occupation. Anglo-Saxon nobles were replaced by French ones. French became the language of power, and the common people were left more divided than ever. And yet, out of that chaos, something remarkable happened. The birth of one of the most powerful institutions in history, the English monarchy as we know it. Out of fear and bloodshed came the political framework that would, centuries later, give rise to Parliament, common law, and the very idea of citizens' rights. The irony is stunning. The same system that oppressed the people planted the seeds of freedom. If the king ruled over the body, the church ruled over the soul. In medieval England, religion wasn't a choice. It was the law, the air you breathed. Most people couldn't read or write. Everything they believed about the world came from the church pulpit, and priests controlled that knowledge. They were taught that hell was real, a place of fire, demons, and eternal torture. Lightning was divine wrath. Failed harvests were punishment for sin, or worse, the work of a witch. Women who lived alone, the elderly, or simply those who were different could be accused of witchcraft without evidence. They were tortured until they confessed to the impossible. Sometimes the test was grotesquely absurd. If she floats, she's a witch. If she sinks, she's innocent. Many innocents drowned, proving their purity. But not everything about the church was darkness. Monasteries were the first centers of education, medicine, and early science. Monks copied ancient books, preserving knowledge that might otherwise have been lost forever. Without them, we might never have known Aristotle or Plato. Even in the midst of fear, there were guardians of light. Then came 1348, the year England faced its deadliest enemy. Not a foreign army, not a rebellion, but something invisible, the Black Death. Within 2 years, Half of England's population was gone. Villages lay abandoned. Churches overflowed with corpses. There weren't enough priests to bury the dead or enough graves to hold them. The living began to believe that the end of the world had arrived, and in a way it had. The world they knew was gone forever. Yet out of the ashes came a strange awakening. The surviving peasants realized their power. Without them, the nobles could not survive. For the first time, they demanded wages. A quiet revolution began. The Black Death, ironically, became the beginning of the end of feudalism. So far, we've talked about kings, wars, plagues, and religion. But there's another side to this story, one rarely told: the ordinary people who changed history without knowing it. Marjorie Kempe, a woman from the 15th century who couldn't read or write, dictated one of the first autobiographies in English history. Wat Tyler, a common laborer, led a massive rebellion against unfair taxes in 1381. He was killed in front of the king, but his ideals lived on. There were also doctors, artisans, jesters, and even businesswomen who quietly began to defy the norms of their age. History erased their names, but they were the foundation of change. And here's the twist. Medieval England wasn't just darkness. It was the laboratory where the modern world was born. From chaos came universities, international trade, courts of law, civil rights, and the English language itself. From despair emerged the civilization that would one day inspire Shakespeare, Newton, and Darwin. By the end of the 15th century, the medieval era was fading. Cities grew, markets flourished, and the printing press brought knowledge within reach of ordinary people. For the first time, the medieval man began to see himself not just as a servant of God, but as an individual. The medieval world was dying, but from its ashes rose the Renaissance. And yet, something from that time still lives among us, in the legends of King Arthur, in the castles that still stand on misty hills, in the rituals, the words, the fascination we still have with the dark, the mystical, and the forbidden. The Middle Ages never truly ended. They live on every time we look to the past, searching for answers about who we are. Medieval England was an age of blood and faith, fear and hope. But above all, it was a mirror of our own humanity. Our need to believe, to belong, to survive, even when everything seems lost. So I ask you, have we really changed that much since then? Or are we still fighting the same fears, just under new names? Leave your thoughts in the comments. And if you love real stories that uncover the hidden side of history, subscribe and ring the bell, because every week we explore the past to better understand the present.